Welcome back, everyone, to Lesser Known Operators. I'm your host, Nicholas Allen, and my guest today is Alex Klaus. He is a member of the Army National Guard, specifically the Colorado Army National Guard. He is the Denver MEPs senior guidance counselor, and through his Instagram, he shares insight, humor, and cool stuff about the National Guard and the military. More specifically, he is a subject matter expert on all things initial entry for the National Guard and Special Forces and its pipeline. So today's episode, we went about an hour, got through a few subjects. We probably missed some things that people have questions on. So if after watching this and you have other questions that you think myself or Sergeant First Class Alex Klaus can answer, send me an email or a direct message on Instagram, lesserknownoperators@gmail.com or our Instagram page. I'll get them all written down. We'll have another follow-up episode. I'll have links to his socials in the show description. Today's episode is brought to you by the Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. Precision Wellness Group helps you restore balance, unlock vitality through bioidentical hormone therapy and evidence-based personalized telemedicine. Dr. Taylor Bosley is a board-certified physician, an emergency medicine physician, a U.S. Army veteran, and a former Green Beret. So he knows where you've been, where you want to go, and how to get you there. And he's an actual doctor who can prescribe you actual medicine. That's a bonus. So if hormone replacement therapy, testosterone replacement therapy, peptides, if this is something you've been thinking about for a while now, or just looking into, look no further than Precision Wellness Group and Dr. Taylor Bosley. I'll have links to their website and socials, along with Sergeant First Class Klaus, in the show description. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, comment, pass these episodes along. Thank you for listening. Leave us a review. Enjoy the show. Alex Klaus, welcome to Lesser Known Operators, man. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Nick. Dude, it's great to be here.
I appreciate you coming on. It's an honor. And were you surprised when I sent you a message asking you to come on?
I was stoked, dude. I'm not going to lie. I had in kind of like waiting mode. I'm like, well, is Nick going to have me on? Like, do I reach out to him? No,
Did we talk about it at the SFRE?
I don't even think we discussed it, dude. It just, I watch some of the content and, it's usually when I'm driving places or in between appointments. And, it's fun being able to share the information and stories, and podcasts are the way to go. Being able to share it with a wide audience and getting in front of as many people as possible is, it's really in the nature of my game right now, is just being able to talk as much as I can and share good information. So I genuinely, I was excited that you reached out to me.
I am as well. The tagline I've come up with lately is the right people doing the right thing the right way. And when I saw you guys out there at Fort McCoy doing the SFRE, I'm blown away. Mostly, I didn't know that was a thing. And then everybody's pretty squared the fuck away. And I said, well, this wasn't my first experience with National Guard Special Forces. So my very first was kind of the opposite of that. My second, impressive, quite impressive. And I had a similar discussion with another guy that's in the space that I am. And he said same thing. We had the same experience because we were in the same unit in first group, and we had a different experience with the same unit. And he goes down to 320 and he goes, you guys are squared the fuck away. So it seems like whatever you guys are doing on the National Guard side, because, everything comes down to money, and you guys have to make decisions on who to send to selection, because that's a driving factor. How much does the financial side drive all of the decisions and all the work that's put in there? Because you guys can go down a rabbit hole pretty quickly and then get no result of it.
Yeah, I mean, if you're talking government work as a whole, it's always the elephant in the room, right? And I think the interesting space that we're in now in just the military is, and maybe nobody quote me on this, but the line that I've shared in the last 5 years in recruiting is, this is the first time in 20 years that we're not actively engaged in a war at a large scale any place in the world. We have, things that we're involved in here and there, but it's not like it was 15 years ago. So the money 15 years ago was very different than the money that's available now in the military, but National Guard is a small portion of that. So we don't get as much as far as the money goes. I I can't tell you how lucky I am to be in the space that I have been for the last 2 years, because the level of professionalism that, I've encountered at the SWID, you and being just a dude, right? I've never been to selection. I didn't grow up around these guys. To work with them in the recruiting side of the house, the experience, the professionalism, the knowledge, and really, I think the passion for the role and for the job is something that drives what you saw at the SFRE. Each of those cadre just truly bring a level of experience, expertise, and just genuinely care about what they're doing, and that drives that experience at the SFRE. And each SFRE, they bring that level of ability in front of those candidates. I've never, in my time in SF recruiting, special forces recruiting, I've never had one candidate say, I didn't enjoy my time at SFRE. I didn't learn something. I didn't enjoy it because it was hard. They know, they go there thinking, knowing it's going to be one of the most difficult things they do, but it's the cadre behind that suffering that I think drives that experience of they actually get some value out of it, regardless if they're selected or not.
I liked that because when I got there, you guys didn't know me, I didn't know you, and I sat down and NCOIC goes, "I want these guys to get something out of this, win or lose. We want them to be better, um, better men, better husbands, better fathers, better friends for having gone through the SFRE," right? And that's a great starting point to come off with to for military training, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that's a little more feasible of a goal on the National Guard side, because those guys, their whole mission is to make or no, to select the next um, pool of Green Berets to be sent
Gener-
up there to go
generation.
through the generation of Green Berets
Yeah.
that are going to come back and work with them. Like it's one thing, the schoolhouse generally, yeah, 15% chance these guys are going to come back to your group based on the groups. The 5 groups take up the majority of the graduates, and then National Guard gets the rest of them there. But you know, these guys are definitely coming back to this unit, and they take that very seriously. That was the impression that I got. That is a 100% in the forefront of the decision making that they're going through, and we need to start this relationship off on the right foot.
Yeah, and they set the tone. I mean, you saw the cadre out there. The NCOIC is, but in NCOIC and the two NCOICs in that position, the E8s that run the show. The You just see it. You see it when you walk in. You meet them for the first time, and the presence that they establish, the engagement that they deliver. Just talking to dudes. They're not. It's funny, right? I was thinking about like an action movie, right? Like when you watch you think about like a war movie, and there's grenades going off in the background, there's gunfighting, there's yelling, there's excitement, and you look at like an SFRE, it doesn't have explosions, it doesn't have dudes yelling. I mean, there's yelling, right? There's a different type of yelling, but the investment and passion in people into the people in front of them is where they truly get the impact and the results that they're looking for, because there's no flash, there's nothing flashy in there to hide any of the human aspect behind it. And the NCOICs that you observe there, and Master Sergeant P and Master Sergeant B, both of them invest in the people in front of them, both in the candidate side and in the cadre side. And I think what you saw was that investment coming to fruition from just investing in the people that they're interacting with. And that's why Colorado, well, I mean, Colorado, I glowed on Colorado for a second. Our selection rate last year was something like 75 to 80% of the dudes we sent to SFAS came back as selected, and they're going through the training pipeline and, varying aspects right now. Is that investment in people is why they get the results they do. It's not the extra stuff.
And, back when I went through, and this isn't like a back in my day story, but there was like the guys would all say, "Oh, they're National Guard. They're gonna make it." And, it's just like, "Oh, are the cadre pushing the guys through?" Or like, "What the fuck does that mean?" Because I kept hearing it. But, oh, that's what it means. Like, when National Guard sends people, they make it. Like, because they're sending people that they have a they're backed by the team and the training detachment and everything. Like, we believe this guy is going to make it. And it's not saying they all make it, but they're ready to go when they go to selection. That's
Yeah,
that's why it's more of a sure thing, because regular Army, we're 25%, 22%, something like that. That's not even close to fucking 70%.
right. Well, and you hit the nail on the head. The From what I understood, there's a initiative by the SORB side of the house to mirror what an SFRE entails, and
For
I, like
active?
yeah, there's a program. I believe it's related to the Fort Bragg area, that mirrors that screening process for the active duty side. So you don't just drop a packet and you just you go. It is supposed to be that screening, that extra layer of determination before somebody goes to selection. And I'll take a step back here for myself. I've never been to selection. I'm a traditional National Guardsman for 10 years, and I've been in the recruiting side of the house for 5. The Looking from the outside in, and even having some success with the 18 X-rays that I've enlisted in the last 2 years, and their ability to go out and perform, the the thing that I notice about selection is that it doesn't assess potential, right? And I love hearing this from the cadre, because anybody can go to selection, right? Anybody can go to selection and demonstrate, go out and try out, right? Potential does not equate to readiness. And the SFREs demonstrate the readiness to not only pass selection, but the readiness to serve on a team. And the cadre look at that. They're looking at these guys, and some of them, like you said, they're looking at the next generation. They're looking for their replacements. They're looking for the guys that are going to come behind them and take their spots. Maybe they're ready to retire. Maybe they're ready to move on to the next gig. Some of them are looking for, their junior 18 Bravos, Charlies, right? And they're looking for who's going to be their junior on a team in 3 to 5 years. And they're looking at those guys on a very personal level and saying, can I serve with this guy on a team, on an ODA in the future? That one-on-one assessment, mentorship is huge for who's going to be successful. But man, I gotta say, I think it instills something in those candidates, right? Like, I'm not going to selection for me now. I had somebody who is a seasoned Green Beret look at me, talk to me, and provide mentorship, and that just speaks to something here. Not only up here, right? Because now I know what to expect, but man, in their hearts, those guys, like, it's now I'm going there because somebody else believed in me, and they know I have what it takes because they've been there and they know I can be successful in this job.
Probably more healthy than the feelings of hate and anger that I went with.
I mean, I I think there's a healthy amount of fear and hate too, man. It's just the army as a whole,
I
and
wrote about it on one of those things. There is a point in your career where you will have to go negative, and you will have to bring up all of the bad things that have happened in your life and use them as fuel.
mm,
Um, but that, coming from a positive, from doing this show and things, if you're coming from a positive direction, and heading in a positive direction, that's two positives, right? But if you're just negative, it will make you angry and depressed, and you can go the Star Wars route of it will lead to the dark side. And it's
It's
not always the healthiest. You have to have a mix. There is a balance of good and bad that you have to have in there for those things. So that's probably a healthier way to go, is to be mentored by the people that you look up to instead of getting away from things you don't want to be there to do. So
don't get me wrong, Nick. I think there's a healthy amount of, I mean, everybody's got a motivation, right? You've got to find, talking, and again, because for the outside in, right? When the NCOICs, I'd ask them, right, like what's a driving force? Like what is the one thing that you would want to tell every single candidate that is going to selection, whether they're guard or active duty? What do you need to know? What do they need to know to be successful? And the phrase sticks out to me. The quote that sticks out to me is finding your purpose. And if your purpose is to be the best version of yourself, and it's this great positive mindset, and it's true to you, it'll shine when the time comes. There's a reason why I clean my house angry, because I get my whole house cleaned while I'm angry. It leads to a very clean house for me, and it drives me to clean up after my kids, and clean the kitchen, all the things I don't want to do, and to drive through that suffering internally. But there's still that part of me that says I really enjoy having a clean house, and I think about that as well when I do the things I don't want to do and I want to suffer through even a hard workout. We find our motivation, we find our purpose in that suffering. And man, I get it, dude. Like hating, thinking about all those people that told you couldn't do something, and
no, no, there was none of that. There was none of that. I didn't want to be there. I did not want to be there. I was not impressed, and I did not want to be at my unit. And I tried to get out there as fast as I could. Your purpose changes though, because I got hurt my first time at selection, and that was demoralizing. And then it was even more anger and hate the second time, to the point where it was a no doubt the second time. But I knew it was going to happen, so I was a lot more prepared. I was at least 100% more prepared when I went the second time, and there was no doubt. But you know, the things change, your goals change, and that's okay too. Like if you think, oh, I'm not doing it for the reasons I was, that's fine. Everybody grows up and changes their perspective about where they want to be and how they need to get there and why they're doing something. And it's at times you might not know, and that's okay too. That's all in the process. That's all in the process.
yeah, evolution. I think there's a question that all the cadre ask, and they warn the guys at the beginning of SFRE. They say, hey, at some point we're going to ask you, why do you want to be a Green Beret? And the cadre, they're very clear, right? It doesn't matter what your answer is as long as it's true to you. And they told a story about a guy who walked in, and he was a prior service active duty guy, and he'd seen a group of GBs come into their element at some point, come through their forward operating base, their FOB, right? And they came in on one dude in a gunner seat was wearing a fucking banana costume, right? And I that's cool, right? Like you're in a war zone in a banana costume behind a 50 caliber Mark 19. That's pretty sweet by anybody's standards. And it didn't matter, right? Like you may not be in a banana costume later on in your career, but that was his motivation, and it was true to him. And that's what the cadre want. They want you to just be true to whatever that purpose is. Just don't bullshit me. Don't tell me what I want to hear in this moment. Tell me what's actually important to you and what's going to be the motivation for you to make it through this process.
Yeah, that's an important one, because I was there when the cadre were asking that question. Why do you want to be a Green Beret? And be honest when you answer that question, candidates, when you answer that. And if you're like, if you don't know right then, say, I just can't, I don't know right now. That's a much better answer than spitting out something because they think it's what somebody else wants to hear. Because man, when you are sucking and pushing a bunch of weight around, and you might not be able to think of the reason you're doing this, and you kind of get down, you're like, oh, man, right now, I don't know. but you get through it and everything will come back to you. Because once it's over, you get to it and you go, ah, man, that wasn't so bad. Uh, I've you
It's a
could
certain amount of relative suck. You think you know what you're going to experience,
yeah.
and then you get through the other side, and that's anything in life. But yeah, you need to know why you're going to do something, and when things get really hard, you have to come back to that purpose, and that's what's going to really make it help make you through, help get you through that deep hole in that moment of suffering.
So, since we're on a truncated timeline, what? Because we'll have people listen to this, and I find out more and more. People ask me questions. All right, so for everybody, what is an SFRE and why does it exist?
Yeah, absolutely. Very common question for me too, man. So the SFRE itself is the way I explain it to all my candidates that come through my office is it's the job interview before the job interview. You are showing up and you are demonstrating your potential to, and I just said readiness, right? So it's demonstrating the candidate's readiness to attend and pass selection. For the guys that have been through SFREs and been through selection, the feedback I've always gotten is that SFREs they found it to be harder than going through selection itself. Relative experience, right? Experiences may vary, but if somebody can show up and pass an SFRE, they're demonstrating the ability to go and pass selection because they're meeting all the gate checks, the physical readiness, the mental capacity, and the ability to work with others, right? The teamwork and the interpersonal skills are all being assessed in a very short and constrained timeline on a drill weekend. So they show up on Thursday night at 6:00, take their PT test. Next morning, they go out for their 12-mile ruck. And that's the only thing I tell them about the whole weekend. Everything else, you have a general idea. These guys don't show up in my office as a future candidate without at least knowing some understanding of what's going to be expected of them at selection, whether that's the team events or whether that's the land navigation. I want them to go in and I want them to be able to pass the basics. And then you're going to go into the rest of the weekend not knowing exactly what to expect. Otherwise, I'm giving you the cheat codes, and that doesn't help anybody in their future success.
Is that dictated by the chain of command or the training doctrine, or what is that? Where's the line get drawn of we're going to give you this much, you got to figure out the rest later?
So I'll share my background in stepping into the SF section. I think that might give some better context to how I've approached bringing people into the unit. As walking into it as a recruiter, I've again never been to selection. I had to kind of figure out the best way to communicate the aspects of the job. I had to communicate the expectations of an SFRE. So guys, they're not walking in blind, and so I've had to have those good communications with the SWID, with the Special Warfare Training Detachment, with the Readiness NCO, with the even the M-Day cadre, the guys that are just showing up there on the drill weekends and assessing, to make sure that I'm not crossing boundaries with going too much into detail, too much into depth. And I think the basic boundaries that I've set is everybody knows what selection is. Everybody knows what is mostly covered in selection. And if somebody walks in with the overall concept of what a selection, what SFAS is, then they can walk into SFRE with a pretty good understanding of what they are going to be expected to perform for that weekend. But I'm not going to send somebody in if they can't pass the basics, which is the gate checks, right? If they can't pass the PT assessment, honestly, the big one is the run. If they can't pass a 2-mile run, and not just pass it by the Army standards, but exceed the standards, because the successful candidates at selection are running 1332 miles consistently on really poor terrain. And those are common. That's common knowledge, and it's put out in the ether. It's in the internet. It's on the Instagram, and so those are the factors that I use to communicate what to expect, and I won't send somebody to an SFRE until they can at least hit that 2-mile run time, because that is where I see as the killer of dreams at an SFRE. You showed up, you wanted to be there, but you weren't ready and you didn't demonstrate that readiness. And most of the time, it's in their aerobic capacity, it's in their running and rucking.
So you haven't been to a selection, right?
No,
You're you're in sales, whether we can dumb it down to, right, you're in sales for the United States military, right?
100%.
So you're not even, and I don't say even, selection's not for everybody. CA is not for everybody. PsyOps, special operations, not for everybody, right? There is nothing wrong with not going to a selection in uniform, but you're a recruiter. Why is there nothing for recruiters to go out there and at least see what's going on so that they know what they're selling at that level? Or what's your concept of selection? Is it just drawn from stories of the people that you work with and what SWIC is putting out with, at least there's now more social media and more videos and more pictures, but you're getting told a story and then interpretation of videos and things. So how is your concept of what selection is developed off of?
Yeah, I think that speaks to my experience as a soldier. And so I was 10 years in the infantry. And, when I first joined the military, special forces was the route I wanted to go. I didn't know when I joined that special forces was an opportunity. So, I dreamt of it, wanted it, but I never knew where to go. And I've now gone through life, married, I have a great life here in Aurora and in Colorado. And it doesn't fit my life now to go through the process and to join those ranks. And, that's something that I've chewed over myself. But I've always taken a passion. I've always taken an interest in it. I've read some great books and talked to folks.
I don't mean you
No,
have to
no.
go to attend though. I don't mean you have to go to attend, but to actually see where you're sending the guys.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
From the perspective of experience, I I'm very careful. So in the SF section, I'm very careful. So we have in Colorado, we have about 40 recruiters. I myself have been very careful about how to package the knowledge of the SFRE to share with the recruiting force. And I shared the exact thing that I shared with you and that I share with other candidates with the recruiters that ask that question. Hey, can I go and experience an SFRE? And it's not out of the question. I think that there is definitely an opportunity for more recruiters to go and see an SFRE to understand it. And then it's the ability to effectively communicate what can be expected without giving away the roadmap to success. You're not going to have the cheat sheet in your pocket in an SFRE to be successful. And so you shouldn't walk in with a complete understanding of what an SFRE will entail. And I think what I'm really boiling it down is what are the tangibles versus the intangibles of a successful candidate during SFRE? And it's not in preparation. It's not, it's not your grip strength, right? Like just because you have a strong grip doesn't mean you're going to be successful at a team event. Just because you have an ability to express aerobic capacity, you can pass a 2-mile run and you're this awesome runner. It doesn't mean that you're going to be selected at the end of an SFRE weekend. And I think it to me personally, it's hard sometimes to communicate that and package that as a salesperson to other salespeople, how to effectively communicate the culture and challenges of an SFRE for an understanding and comprehension versus just as a selling point. I think that's the best way I can kind of package that up because
no, it's fine.
there's a lot to there's a lot to digest with it from just from me. I've had to really take in a lot because then you also have to package it as somebody who hasn't attended a selection. And maybe some of these guys have, and they know some of those ins and outs. So they're going to have a better understanding at it from the personal experience. And so bringing people into that fold and having them observe it's not as a selling point, but more as a understanding to share with their applicant pool so they know what they're getting themselves into. That to me is the most important aspect, is bringing successful, or what would shows to be the most potential to be successful at an SFRE. That's the concept that I've shared with my recruiting force, is those key points, so they can share that with their applicant pool.
So who all is the applicant pool made up of?
Oh, well, so I'm I'm not short of applicants. The applicant pool is pretty vast. I think
We got civilians, we got prior service.
yeah,
How much you can anybody come as long as you're not me and medically retired, right? You can switch over basically.
yeah, I like that question. Each state does it differently. So I know some other states require civilians to attend the SFREs before they get an 18 X-ray contract. Colorado uses their SFRE for evaluation for guys that are either in the Guard or they are prior service, meaning that they've served in some component somewhere, somehow. And the SFRE for us is used to evaluate that specific population to go to selection. Our civilian population for my section doesn't require an SFRE attendance. And in some circumstances, I shy away from people going as a civilian because I've never wanted it to be used as a tourist event. I didn't want it to be considered in the same realm as like a Tough Mudder, right? I'm going to go and test my mettle against an obstacle course and get dirty and generally suffer for a weekend to see if I can do it. And coming from my end, the suffering part is a big portion of it, but the mindset of an SFRE is not, am I ready? It's demonstrating that I'm ready so I can get to selection. So the population pool for my section, honestly, it's guys that they've been dreaming it for a while, right? It's that kind of that itch that they've been wanting to scratch, and they've just either recently started to consider it and now they need to start training up for it, or it's guys that they're ready to scratch that itch and they've done their due diligence, they've done the research, they know what's required of them to pass an SFRE and go to selection, and they're ready to rock and roll. And those are the guys that I'm most excited, right? They've done the research and they've prepared themselves, both body and mind, to be successful in that training environment. And I love working with those guys because they get me everything I need. They get all the paperwork, they get to MEPs, and I don't have to chase those guys down because they're committed to that next step, which is selection. And really they're dreaming in their brain of donning that Green Beret, and they know the steps that it takes to get there. Or at least they think they know, right?
First lesson for you kids. Most of special forces is paperwork. So if you're squared away up front,
100%.
it's going to show, and it's probably a good starting point for starting your career. And that's just the case. Like, we do PowerPoint and make storyboards and con-ups and op orders and one sliders and all this other stuff all the time. So if your paperwork is squared away, that's a good start. Unfortunately, as unfortunate as it sounds, that's true.
It starts with signing the line, and it starts with putting pen to paper. And I think that's another amazing aspect I'll share with you, is that the SWID cadre, I think about the 18 Bravos and the Charlies and the Deltas, and this is their main role. And the really cool thing is watching them go out and do all the other things required of their skill set. So the logistics side that the Charlies are taking care of. So they're doing the planning, they're doing the supply runs, they're getting rucksacks. You showed up to Wisconsin, and our 18 Charlies had been working for months on the paperwork and planning side to bring all of that equipment. So they had to get all the equipment, and then they had to work on the process to get that equipment out to Wisconsin. And the amount of effort for a guy who's gone through 3 years of really hard training in the military, and that is a key aspect of his job, is paperwork. that was crazy to me the first time to hear that.
Yeah. Yeah. Charlie is, that's all I did. I never did the job, or the job is the tagline, right? Special Forces engineer sergeant. I didn't engineer shit. Like, I didn't, as soon as I got hurt, I went to the B team and I was paperwork and support the rest of my career. I went out in the field, but it was to support, logistical support, moving, backside support, and everything, and like paperwork and accountability, and then an inventory. Every few months, there's an inventory, and it's like that. So,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it's not just the brochure things that like you look at. There is a professional office setting to every one of the MOSs that is sometimes more important, because if your paperwork's not squared away, you're not going to get to go out and play in the field and blow stuff up. It's just
Yeah.
kind of how it is.
Yeah, and you don't have the enough explosives to go out take out to the field, and it's it's all I think what I pulled from that was the self-sufficiency aspect of it. Like, we're not just looking for, and I say I've used the term we, the special forces community is not just looking for dudes that can ruck well and run well, but are you a self-starter? Can you be self-sufficient on your own, because now you're going to learn a whole new skill set to bring self-sufficiency to a military environment, and it's not always going to be pretty. You're not always going to have, and I love the conversation of money, because the GBs and the SWID, they figure it out without some of the extra money and support that you might want to get some of the flashy stuff. And they go out and they just figure it out, and they go out and they just grab stuff, and they have relationships with people that can help them get supplies and pull people and training, and just a regular 68 whiskey, right? A regular combat medic, just to be able to source one of those guys to show up to some of these events to be an additional support in the medical side to treat guys that might get hurt during training. That takes steps, and that takes interpersonal skills and self organizational skills to be able to execute some of the basics of the jobs of being an 18 series dude on a team. Those are some of those, like, soft skills almost, that that have to be assessed prior to the going down that course.
Yeah. Some of those you can learn, by seeing, because you haven't seen that before, then you're not going to know. But you see somebody do it, you go, oh, yeah, okay, now I get it. Now I get it. But, you know, I like that you keep saying we, because it was a we effort out there at the SFRE.
Yeah.
Your job is not really in any of our MOSs. Like, we get tasks every once in a while. The SWIC levy will come out or whatever, and we'd have to send guys to be a recruiter, and that's just the way it was. But how much are those guys relying on you? Because you're the first step for their pool to assess from. How much are you guys talking to each other?
I I've been very fortunate in my role that one of the first things I did coming into the section was reestablish, or just establish, a line of communication and a relationship with the training detachment, and being able to call the SWID cadre or text them and ask them questions. Asking my full-time staff at 519th at the battalion, I could walk down the hallway and communicate with the long tabber and ask them questions about the training pipeline. It's an essential part of what I've done as a recruiter, and being able to bring that relationship and being able to use that relationship to find out information very quickly. I would not have seen this section be as successful as it has been without that relationship with the unit and with the Green Berets in that unit. It's a great question.
It's important, from the other side of things. SF teams, we've got enablers, and the more you can make them feel like they're part of the team, and or just make it clear that they're part of the team. the more effective everybody's going to be. Oh, these guys want me here. Well, I want to be here too. And everybody puts out a better product and they're proud of what they do. Oh, we're working together. Not because we're faking it. Like, no, we're a team, like we're working towards the same goal. And well, that's good. I liked that part too. Enough great stuff about how great you guys are and all the great things. I was just impressed. I was impressed by the way you did things, and in comparison to my previous experience, and things like that. But coming from the active duty side, that's not the case. Like you just go to selection, and from your unit, and then you come back. You put that paper on first sergeant's desk, and he goes, "Did you make it?" And yep. And you
Yeah.
walk around like you really accomplished something, when in reality you didn't accomplish anything. You didn't accomplish anything because the next 10 steps were much harder than that one. But that's kind of the way it was. And then there's this whole other world where you guys have to weed through all of these different avenues and get people out. And we got to have a pre-assessment and get the paperwork done and get everything out before we can bring them out. How many SFREs are going on all over the country? Do you have any view of the other units that are doing them as well?
Yeah, I think a couple of things this section has done really well is we've tried to build a community of the recruiters and the other recruiting forces for special forces in the other states. Um, I think every state does it a little bit differently, but I think you can expect that at least one per quarter is kind of the average. So at least 4 SFREs per year is being done inside of the state. Sometimes it's more, but I think that's kind of the base level of what to expect with an SFRE. The autonomy in each state is really pretty neat because each state does have a different process, a different way that they approach it. A common question I get asked a lot is, "Hey, I want to go try out some different SFREs." Well, that's you could probably end up doing that if you just talk to people and have that blessing from them. But a selection or a you've been selected in one state is not going to be a selected in a different state. And so having that upfront conversation with guys of where do you want to go? Do you want to live in and you don't have to live in Colorado to serve in Colorado. Plenty of guys travel from other states and, go multiple states where there might be a closer group. Plenty of guys do that. But having that upfront conversation of, and again, the relationship that I have with the SWID, the confidence that I have in my SWID, I think allows me to communicate with people that you don't want to go to somewhere else. You want to come to our group. You want to come be a Green Beret with us and serve in Colorado because we have that culture. We have that community to allow people to be successful and to enjoy what they do. And in a National Guard unit, we're 1 weekend a month. Guys aren't going to want to travel 1 weekend a month, put a pause on their regular life. They're students. They're the multitude of different careers, man. It's incredible the diversity that they do on the civilian side. But people aren't going to want to put a pause on their regular life to go to a unit or a job that they don't like. The phrase that I've heard is, Green Berets speak with their feet, right? They're going to go to a group, they're going to go to units that have a good culture, they have a good basis behind them, and they're going to want to go to those places, those groups, because people talk and you learn those things. They're going to want to go where they can enjoy themselves and enjoy what they do that 1 weekend a month. It's the guys, it's the job, it's the people around them. So people want to come to Colorado because we have a really good reputation. So but the SFREs that are going on all across the country are happening, and there's this really tremendous opportunity right now with social media where you can get involved with any group that you wanted to go and try out for simply by just reaching out in the Instagram world and find a group closest to you to go try out with.
Yeah. And so how many battalions per group do you guys have?
Well, that's a
Yeah. I don't know either. It's not like we're going to stump anybody here. I'm just curious. But
No,
you
we
guys
have
are 519, right?
yeah. So we
So
we
there's
have
probably 4 others.
Yeah, that's the assumption, right? We have direct relationship with so Texas. There's a Charlie Company and Alpha Company in Texas, and then our higher element for the 519th is based out of Utah. So that's where brigade headquarters is at. So that's where our higher element's based out of. So we have a relationship with Utah. We have a relationship with Texas directly. But then you also have California, Washington State, Ohio, Rhode Island. Oh man, I mean, that's just 19th group, and then you go into the 20th group, and there's a total of 14 different states between 19th and 20th group.
Is there just one training detachment per battalion? Or can individual companies hold these SFREs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the SWIDs are typically based out of the state because the state is going to, they're going to be the ones that support that candidate going to selection and going to Q course. So in California, I'm not familiar with their structure. It is a larger state, but there's at least one SWID per state because that's how the organizational chart works. Is, come back to the money conversation. That's how the organizational chart works with the money.
Okay. And so whatever state you drill in, you're in that state's National Guard, right? The guys that were up 519, you're in Colorado National Guard.
Correct.
And if you're in Texas, you're in Texas National Guard. You're in Special Forces, but you're in that state's Special Forces National Guard. Okay.
Yeah. And a kind of unique aspect to that is, and this is a selling point for the Guard entirely, right? Is that the Guard doesn't tell you where to live. If you really wanted to and you were willing to travel for drill, you could live in Alaska and travel down to Colorado, for your drill status.
Seems like a lot could go wrong there, but
Well,
you could do
100%.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
But
could
if
do it.
you logistically could make that work, then that's something that, again, the Guard's not going to tell you where to live. And so in the realm of the special forces is you're going to serve where you want to. So, if you wanted to live in another state, you want to serve in Colorado for your whole time, that's awesome. If you needed to, you wanted to move to a different unit, you could change states and go to the Texas National Guard and join Charlie Company and Alpha Company down there. You could move to California. You can join the California Army National Guard and belong to their SF unit there. You can move to Florida if that's what you wanted to do, but nobody's going to tell you where to move as an SF guy in the National Guard.
So your main people coming to the SFRE, or the first step, right? It's got to be the majority of people that are already in the National Guard, right? And then the second most has got to be active duty wanting to switch over to Guard and not be active duty anymore. Is that right?
It's a balance. So my section specifically deals with the 18 X-ray population, and the Guard only
Oh, they're
allows.
separate?
Yeah, it's separate. Yeah, separate entirely. So my section deals with 18 X-rays who are civilians, never served before. So if you've had any military service, the Guard doesn't allow you to do an 18 X-ray contract. So that's the kind of that's the one pot, and then the other pot for my section is prior service applicants who are of any branch, right? They could be former Army, former Marine, former Navy. And my job is to enlist them into the Colorado Army National Guard and put them with 519th. So they're going to go and enlist into the Special Warfare Training Detachment with the purpose of attending an SFRE so that they can go to selection. Those are my two pots. The SWID also is going to take guys that are in the Guard already, and then they're going to put them through an SFRE. And depending on their performance, that's when they're going to send them to selection.
But did they pull them over to the Special Warfare Training Detachment before they send them off? I'm getting kind of
Yes.
confused. I feel stupid. I feel stupid right now
No,
because I
no,
didn't know any of this. But
you're asking me questions. It's taking me 2 years to learn. So
okay,
I'm
so
100%.
you pull people over. What if they're 15 whiskey? Like, are you able to do that, or is there a procedure in place to have like a 14 Tango, which is an air defense artillery, come over to you guys? Like, do you have a slot? How is that slotted if somebody doesn't fit to your MTO?
Yeah, that's a great question, and you know, you can go into the rabbit hole of administrative placement. The SWID is this really kind of, it's the redheaded stepchild almost, because there is no, outside of the cadre, right? That there are specific 18 series billets there for the cadre. All the other guys there are in what's called standard access, so it's MOS immaterial, and there is no prerequisite to go to selection and have a specific MOS in order to go to selection. So you can be a 14 series guy. You could be a 91 series. You could be a 92 golf. You could be a cook and go get selected, right? So when we place people into the SWID, my role in the SF section has been, I want to set people up for the long term. So I really take pride in taking care of applicants that when they come to the Colorado Army National Guard, my goal is to get them to selection because they want to go be a Green Beret. But if they don't have an MOS, a job in Colorado, or a job in the Army, I take great pride in making sure that they're set up for success by having them go to an AIT to get assigned a school, to get assigned an MOS before they go to the SWID. Because if something doesn't work out for them, now it's just like, you know, they're not just sitting there in the corner waiting to ETS or go somewhere else. You have a job that you were committed to, and if something doesn't work out for whatever reason, now they have something to fall back on. That was a major point for me in bringing a good experience for applicants coming through this section. The Colorado, in any Army National Guard, right? If somebody from let's say Louisiana Army National Guard doesn't have special forces, so a qualified person could come to Colorado, try out with the SFRE, get selected. And actually, what happened in Wisconsin is we had only one dude from Colorado show up. Everybody else was either prior service or in a different state's National Guard. And the guys that were selected have to IST to Colorado. So they change from their current state into Colorado so that way they can go to selection, because we're going to foot the bill. So we're going to pull them over first. But it's 100% MOS immaterial. There is no prerequisite to go to selection. And my only role was, outside of just accessing them, is to make sure that the long term is taken care of from, that they at least have an Army MOS. And the preference is I want them to stay in Colorado. So I'm going to try to get them a Colorado Army National Guard MOS, where we have 70 jobs and Big Army has something like 140, 145 different jobs. So I want them to stay in Colorado. I want them to love what they do here.
And those are the X-rays as well. You're getting them an MOS first before you sending them?
Well, that's the cool thing about the 18 X-ray, and it's actually kind of one of
Because they're going to go OSET?
Yeah, they go 11 Bravo. So
Okay, so they still get to do the whole thing.
yes, yep, and it's kind of the unique way to go about it. Like if a guy said, "Hey, I wanted to come in, but I don't want to go through 11 Bravo. I want to get a skill set here that, you know, I could fall back on, that's either translatable outside of the military, or, you know, I just want to have a different job to fall back on that's not infantry in case I don't make it." I could get them to go to an AIT, get qualified as any job in the Colorado Army National Guard, and then send them to the SFRE afterwards to go get selected and become a GB.
Sounds reasonable.
It's pretty it's pretty cool, man. I mean, the amount of stuff that I've done in this section, and I get to gloat a little bit here because, you know, walking into the section was kind of the Wild West, right? There was a lot of things happening, but there wasn't really any structure or processes in place to kind of place people where they needed to go. And I had the unique opportunity to build processes for all these different characters that were coming through. And relative information, 10 to 15 new people usually calling me per week that I'm starting to process. And I had to very quickly develop a roadmap for those guys to go to selection as quickly as possible. There are so many different ways that a guy can get from A to B to Q, right, to Q course. And it literally just comes down to the person and establishing the best pathway for them, that I just get to be the almost the guide to success versus just a recruiter to enlist them and sign on the dotted line. Let me take your soul and your firstborn. Right. That was for me the really exciting part of supporting these guys. There's just so many different opportunities and pathways to get them to where they want to go. And all it really required was that they had the willingness to go out and do these things and to train and to prepare themselves. And, of course, there's the eligibility, like we've talked about too, is like they have to also be eligible to join. But that mindset of, as long as you were willing to get me everything I need, I'm going to get you in the best pathway possible for your life.
Unless you're me.
Dude, I'd put you back in boots tomorrow if I could. Don't.
No,
don't,
that is if kids, like if you get medically retired, it's not going to happen. It ain't going to happen.
it is a hard. It's one of those things, man. You're absolutely right. And I got some dudes in kind of they got out and they're qualified dudes. They're qualified 18 Bravos or Charlies, and MEPS is, for prior service guys, MEPS is a very hard, or can be a hard system to navigate, because they did all the right things getting out, even if they weren't medically retired, right? They have VA disability, things that they should be getting as part of being in service, and they've gotten out. And going back through the MEP system and getting them again qualified to re-enlist, even as a qualified 18 Charlie, it can be a mountain to climb. And it's really on us as the recruiters here to help climb those mountains to get dudes in that as best we can.
Where should an active duty guy start if he says, maybe I should just check this out first, before I ETS and start getting your VA benefits? What's the first thing they should do when they're getting close to ETSing?
So as far as like getting out, is that what you're saying, or like checking out?
No,
like
if
an
they were
SFRE?
like, maybe I should check out National Guard. So an active duty 18 series.
Yeah.
What's the first thing they should do if they're have an inkling that maybe they'd want to go over to the National Guard side?
Oh, I love that question. We actually have a dude who works with, he's one of the SWID cadre, and he's on Title 10 orders, and he works with they're called RCCCs. It's the Reserve Career Component Counselors. And his main job is to go out and talk to dudes and in the active duty groups and help advise them and give them the insight to jumping over to the Guard from active duty instead of just getting out as an 18 series dude. I'm sure we can put up some of my contact information. People can reach out to me, and I'll put you in touch with Sergeant First Class Mo, for short, right? So we'll put you in touch with him, and he can help facilitate those conversations. We'd love to have you, and it's great to just start conversations now and kind of figure out where you want to land if active duty is no longer the right fit for you.
Yeah, I had no concept of it getting out. Of course, I'm going the medical retirement route, but it's not really something you talk about. That's your job. And then, yeah, okay, everybody's like, oh, they're getting out or they're retiring or whatnot. There's no like thought of that. Like we also, I don't know if I'm not going to speak for everybody else, but I was like, National Guard, that's stupid. Like
we get trashed, dude. It's all good.
Honestly, I was like, no, that's dumb. Like that's part time. Like I don't want to do that. I want to do this full time. And I was a kid. Like I'm an idiot. And now I have access to all the information, and I'm still an idiot. But I don't think that now. I'm like, oh, they're just doing their thing. And he's a lawyer. Oh, now he's an 18 Bravo. Those things don't really go together, but somehow they do in the National Guard.
It's super cool, man. Out of the SWID cadre, I get to gloat on them all the time, man. Some of these guys are going through. One dude just actually in the middle of SFRE, he had to leave on Sunday morning so he could go take his bar exam on Monday. So he flies back, goes to take his bar exam. One of our 18 Deltas is in medical school. I have another guy who just crushed his MBA, so he's got his MBA now. So each of these guys, 3-letter agencies, right? Like each of these guys are doing so much on the civilian side. And the crazy part is, right? They're E6s, they're E7s, and they have more education, they have more experience, and they're still coming to drill and serving as an 18 series guy 1 weekend a month because they love the job. And the biggest thing is they love the community. They show up for the boys, right? They show up for the team, and they get to spend time in that team 1 weekend per month, and that's the thing they look forward to. So yeah, if there's any active duty guys looking to jump over or even just curious about it, we'll put you in touch with the right people, 100%, right? You can pursue both.
Yeah, I don't know, of my audience. I don't have a feel for, like, because I'm very naive about who listens, and then I get messages. I'm like, oh man, you're listening. Oh man, oh yeah, everybody over in this. So I'm very naive about my audience and that and my reach and things. But here, we're going to do a short episode today, and kind of what I had in my mind was, uh, people will see this and be like, oh, lesser known operators is having a special forces recruiter on who's got the answers. He can give us the answers for this. So I'll say this: if you guys, we'll have you back on in a month, month and a half, 2 months, whatever. Right? We'll figure it out if we get some. If you are listening to this and you want to send me a question, you send me a question. I'll write it down here in my book, and we'll have Sergeant First Class Klaus back on, or whoever's. I'll give him the questions ahead of time, and we'll have an episode where we'll go through questions and answer for guys, because I said on here, I don't know why, but if you guys want to listen to me, I want to help where I can. I don't think I left Special Forces in a better place when I left it the first time, but now I have that opportunity to have an effect on the regiment in a positive manner. So what am I going to do with my pen of light? Well, I'll do that. If I can help you guys make Green Berets, then I'll do that. And I can get people the correct information, come from a positive place in a positive direction. And as I said to you guys at the SFRE, literally whatever I can do to help you guys, I'll do it. And I hope going forward, because I don't think me having no notes really lends to having a recruiter on, and you're in uniform, and I'm like, we got to be a little more proper. And I was swearing. I'm like, oh, I can't, I
Yeah,
shouldn't swear in this episode. I was like, oh, come on, calm down, Nick.
I think we all swear in uniform. It's I we
Well,
got to.
there's command involved, and you're in uniform, and there's things. So I don't want to overstep anything like that. But if the audience wants to go through me to get a question to you, we'll have another episode, another question and answer session, or whatever. And if we can get one person the correct information, or if people want to come send me an email at lesserknownoperators@gmail.com and trash me, that's fine too. As long make sure you leave a comment. That's okay too.
Engagement is engagement, homie. Let's go.
It is. It is. A negative comment is more helpful than no comment.
Leave your remarks below, everybody.
All right, man. Last one, how did you get into this position to do this job? Is this something you worked yourself into, or you just found yourself here and you said, well, I've got to do the best I can now? How did this come about for you?
It's a great question. I've had a rather interesting journey in the last 5 years, getting into recruiting. Just the quick down and dirty for me. I was a trainer. I was a personal trainer on the civilian side, and I lost my job in COVID. And I could have taken unemployment. I could have taken money, and I looked at my wife. I had one kid at the time, one on the way, and I said, "Hey, I can't do that. I got to go to work." And I waited for the first set of orders to come down for the COVID mission. I jumped on that. I networked my way into the recruiting job after that ended in 2020. And something about the Guard that people find is that it's a very small community. We only have in the state of Colorado 3,500 Army National Guard soldiers, and the person that actually got me into recruiting was my squad leader when I was a private. So 10 years prior to that, and he was in recruiting, and I reached out to him. He got me hooked up, and you know, coming into the special forces section, man, I kind of fell into it. It was a position that needed to be filled, and it requires a certain amount of experience to come into as a recruiter, versus just being a regular street guy and just going to high schools. And I did a really great job of going to those high schools for a couple of years and found a lot of success and built a lot of processes that when the opportunity came up to be the SF recruiter, um, I I stood up and said, I'll take that challenge on." And it's definitely been one of the highlights of my military career, and certainly has been the highlight of my recruiting career to do this. I've got three 18 X-rays right now that got selected last year, and I get to touch base with them and learn where they're at in the Q course, and to hear the stories of where they're at and all the good things that they're experiencing. It validates to me the stress and struggles and the long hours of recruiting, but the professionalism, and I've talked about this a few times, is the cadre that I've been able to work with at the not only the cadre at the SWID, but even the full-time staff at the battalion, who just the level of expertise, professionalism, and just human experience. It's not something you find very often in any community, in any job. And it's I've been very fortunate to, and almost lucky, right, to have kind of fallen into this position and taken it on. And like you said, it's really about bringing good dudes into the regiment, and leaving the place better than when I found it. And that's been the major goal of mine coming into the section. Leave it better than how I found it.
Good, good. Sounds like you had to figure it out as when you got there, and hopefully the next guy will pick it up and go, I can continue this.
That's the
How can
goal.
everybody how can everybody get a hold of you if they so choose?
Y-
Officially.
Yeah, through official channels. And so I'm actually transitioning between special forces recruiter and MEPS guidance counselor. So I'm actually the guy writing contracts at Denver MEPs, and I'm still facilitating the kind of the special forces communications. I'm on Instagram, I'm on Reddit, and basically every other social platform that can effectively use. So guys can reach out to me on Instagram is probably the easiest way to do it. Also make sure that you got my phone number. Obviously, please share it. My email. Any way you guys want to get in touch with me, I'm all about facilitating conversations, and if I need to point you in the right direction, that's what I'll do.
Oh yeah, man. Well, you guys have any questions, send me an email at lesserknownoperators@gmail.com or on Instagram, and I'll write them all down here. I'll get a new notebook out, and we'll keep track of all of them. We'll have a question and answer section, and we'll hopefully get some people to correct information. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. We'll see how it's received. I don't know. It might be overwhelming. It might be three people, but if we can help three people, that's better than zero. So
100%. Always happy to bring information to the table, Nick.
absolutely, brother. Well, I appreciate you coming on. You got anything for me?
No, man. Thanks for what you do, and just know your impact at the SFRE was seen. It's pretty incredible working with wide-eyed candidates. You and I talked a couple times, man, about this. Is looking from the outside in at the experience of guys coming through, and just know it's seen from those guys' perspective too. Is when they can watch and see what the example is. It's just different when you can see that and you can connect with it, and it gives that dude something internally to be able to drive off of. And so having your presence there, it was noted, and I can tell you it did make an impact with dudes. So thank you for coming out, and man, thanks for sharing the information. This is the wave of the future. You got to talk to people, you got to reach them where they're at, and bringing them information on podcasts and just sharing good stuff, man. That's how things come about.
Absolutely. We're all learning it at the same time, and as I said, however I can help, I'm gonna do my best to do that. And I'll run out of bandwidth eventually, but not right now. I'll figure it out.
Sounds like you got to come out for November SFRE, homie.
Oh yeah. Oh, tell everybody the September events. So I've
Oh,
got them. Make sure I got them correct.
Thank you. Yeah, so SOCOM Athlete is doing another event with 519th, Colorado 519th. It is the SF Challenge on September 27th in Watkins, Colorado. The sign up is either SOCOM Athlete. You can reach out to me directly as well, and I'll send you the sign up for it. 100% free event. Civilians currently serving, prior service, all can show up. It's not a tryout, it's an experience. So think about it like this: you're going to go out, you're going to experience the some of the aspects of SFAS and even like Q course, but it's the face to face mentorship, getting in front of Green Berets, asking your questions, getting their feedback, and being able to connect with them. Man, that's where the real value is at for that day. But yeah, man, people show up, they show out. It is going to be a great event. It is all day. I have a few guys that are actually they have 18 X-ray contracts, or they're going to have 18 X-ray contracts, and I'm going to have them do a swear in with our battalion commander at the end of that event. So it is something that I'm very excited about. I'm very excited to get dudes out in front of these GBs. So if anybody has any questions, they want to show up and do this event, or if they're ready to go and they want to do a swear in, man, I'm all about it. So just reach out to me and I'll point you in the right direction.
Love it. I'm gonna try and make it out there. I am a last second planner though, so we're gonna find out probably a couple days before if I'm coming or not. So
We'd be
again,
happy to have you.
Alex, I appreciate you coming on. Bye everybody.